So what's been on my heart a lot recently, this past week or two, is I've been reflecting on a pattern that's been going on in my life, and that is losing friends, good friends too, friends that are in your life regularly. Where you text them every single day. You know how that person's day was, and what struggles they went through, what wins they had that day. Those kind of friends that you would talk to them every single day, that you deemed were good friends. And I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this, but the pattern that's going on in my life is that I'm talking to them and then they just stop talking to you. They were in your life and now they're just gone. And that loss, that grief wears on my heart, to the point where I ask, what did I do wrong? And ultimately, was this God's will? And this is kind of what I wanted to talk about, because I was looking into what the church basically says about this. We say, oh, it was part of God's plan. I want to believe that these friends are no longer in my life, and I don't know why they're not in my life. They don't even tell me. They just stop talking to me. So I'm left to just look at it from the Catholic perspective. Is this God's plan? Right? Maybe these people that I thought were good friends, maybe they're just not in my life because it was God's plan for them to leave. And I'm guilty of saying this. And I'm not saying that was a bad thing to say, or that's not correct, but I don't think it really hits it on the head. I think more precisely God's will would hit it on the head. That would be more precise. Of course, there's two senses to God's will, right? There's the permissive will of God, and then there's the active will of God. So a little theology 101, or a simple analogy, I guess, that people commonly use. If God's will, God's goodness is light, sunlight, and then there is a shadow that's casted. A shadow is casted because something got in the way of the light, right? And that thing that got in the way would be evil, right? God didn't put that thing there. That wasn't God's will. Something that's evil, something that's bad that happens, that's not God's will. It's His permissive will. He allowed it to happen for the greater good. Just if you were to take the greatest example of all time, I would say, Jesus Christ and His death, His crucifixion. A lot of times the confirmation students will ask me to be, well, why did He have to die in that way? Why did He have to be tortured? If He wanted to make the point of, suffering, couldn't He just have an easy, simple death? Yes, He could have. God could have allowed that to happen. God could have made that happen. But He allowed the way Jesus died. His permissive will. Not His plan, per se. He allowed Jesus to die in the way He died because He knew what was going to bring of it. His permissive will. When something great happens, when we have a miracle happen, the doctors say, hey, you're not going to live. Or He says to a mother that your child is going to be handicapped. If you allow this pregnancy to go through, your child has this percentage that is going to be handicapped. You should abort it. And the mother says, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to see this out. Because that is a life, and that's a miracle, and that's beauty, regardless. And the reality is the baby turns out fine. Actually, a lot of times, there's plenty of stories where the baby actually turns into quite of a genius. And that is God's perfect will in play, that the goodness comes out. So bringing back to my friends, I don't know which one was it. Was it God's permissive will? Was it God's perfect will? Were these friends going to shape me into a better person or a worse person? And that's the gift of discernment comes in, right? We could pray. We could pray saying, God, I want to know if this was your will, if this was your permissive will, or was this your perfect will? Did you bring these friends out of my life because it was going to bring me, for the greater good, bring me closer to you? Or was it your permissive will? And you allowed it to happen. And you've instilled in me these tools that I can get through this. You can pray about it. And I've been praying about it. But I think the greater challenge here, the greater thing that I invite you to do and invite myself to rise to this challenge, is if you find in the time of prayer, you're discerning why this happened. Whatever X situation happened, if you find that God said, no, I'm not going to give you an answer, to be okay with that. God doesn't have to give us an answer as to why he did it. That's when true trust comes into play. To being accepting that this is what happened in God's will, and I accept it for what it is. Because at the end of the day, that sunlight is God's goodness. And for better or for worse, for the greater good, there's going to be good from it. We just have to trust. Trust. Don't question it. Don't question it. I invite you to find that place in your faith journey, if you're not there yet, to look for that trust, as I'm going to try as myself as well. But anyway, thank you all for listening. That was just my Catholic thought of the day. I will see you guys later. God bless you all.